and welcome to the Jamie and Steven Show. Let's talk movies, music, and magic. And this week's episode, it's the Hunchback of Notre Dame. And returning to the podcast is Sophie from Magical Guides.
It's so lovely to be back. I'm so excited.
We're so glad you're back, Sophie.
Oh, it's such a joy last time. It was such a hoot, so I can't wait.
Oh, good. And this is a good one. Although I'm hoping for some, fun stuff from you again.
Yes.
That Marahute is gone down well.
It's amazing. I still think of that every now and then. It just it's like I hear a voice and I just hear it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it's coming. It's amazing.
I've had my sister on a couple of times since, and she always does it.
I love that. It's amazing.
Yeah, she did actually tell me to say hi.
Oh, hi. Oh, this is so lovely. We all need to have a little chat.
Yes, I
we
know.
can have a little Marahute party.
34th animated classic. I'm going to dive into the IMDb synopsis.
Okay.
Yeah. So, a deformed bell ringer must assert his independence from a vicious government minister in order to help his friend, a gypsy dancer.
It's accurate. I don't think you would be able to describe it that way now.
No.
You have to be a bit more culturally sensitive.
Yeah, I think a deformed bell ringer was that was a bit severe.
Yes, it's so true, so true.
But then again, we've still got to hear Stephen, so...
I had two.
Okay.
Love it.
I'm going to go for the more polite of the two. An old rich white guy locks away a disabled baby, attempts to wipe out woke people, and dreams about raping a young woman. He uses religion as his excuse.
I love that.
Yeah.
Kind of accurate.
That is a Stephen synopsis.
I love it.
My other one was a lot of people get cock blocked in Paris. A lot of people do. Frollo does. Quasimodo does.
I know.
It's true.
Even the gargoyles do.
Yeah.
No,
True.
that brings me to a fact later on.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
It's like that goat.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you my fact now. I'll tell you.
Okay, go for it. I'm
So,
intrigued.
in the sequel, the goat, which I'm not going to be able to pronounce the name of, is it Dali?
That was Jolly.
Yeah.
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 The goat is referred to as a male, and in the sequel, the goat and Hugo, one of the gargoyles, get together. It is a relationship.
Wow.
I love that they were testing the waters. They were like, we can't fully go out with the humans, so we'll do gargoyle and goat.
Yeah. In other dubs, they went over the voice where every time it was Dali is referred to as a he, they replaced it with she.
Oh, okay.
Wild.
So trans rights.
Exactly.
We flag that flag, so we're it's safe for Jolly.
Yes.
Yeah. It's got 7 stars on IMDb, which I'm surprised at.
Yeah, I think it should be more.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I think this is one of my all-time favourite Disney films.
Yeah. Stephen, have you given away what you're going to give this film?
It's not a fact.
Oh, shocker. It's an hour and 31 minutes.
Yeah, it felt it.
So we're sticking with the hour and a half now. I don't think it goes shorter than that. Directors, we have returning Gary Truesdale and Kirk Wise, who directed Beauty and the Beast and go on to direct Atlantis.
They were also they did the storyboards for The Lion King.
Yes, they did. Yeah, so it's based on the novel by Victor Hugo. And I didn't know this, and I don't know why, but he wrote Les Mis.
Yes. I have another
When I read
fact.
that, I was like, oh, I should have known that. So writers, there's 24. sort of credited, but they have different roles and parts to do with the writing. So I wrote down just a few names that we've maybe heard before or go on to hear. So we've got Tab Murphy, and he goes on to write for Brother Bear. Irene Mecci, who wrote The Lion King, well, part of the Lion King team. Nani White, she goes on to work on Tarzan.
We won't hold that against her.
And we have Brenda Chapman again and Bernie Mattinson. So, and Sophie, if you don't know, Bernie Mattinson is Christmas Carol. He directed A Monkey's Christmas Carol.
Oh, so cute.
Did you watch Once Upon a Studio?
Yes.
So he's the old man at the beginning that leaves.
Oh,
yeah, with the younger animator.
Oh, that's so nice. Oh, I was obsessed with that. I think that's one of the best things Disney done for years. It's brilliant.
Yeah, good honor for 100 years, I think. And so was Wish. Have you watched it yet, Sophie?
I still haven't. You know what happened?
Oh.
I ended up in a Marvel like quagmire.
Okay. Yeah,
because I was trying to get up to speed, and I'm still about only halfway through. But before I went to Disneyland Paris, I was like, I've got to at least have seen Infinity War and Endgame. So I've cleared the path now. I've done it. I'm gonna get on the Wish train.
You must, because we're only like, what, 30 films away till we get to
it. Exactly.
This is like your 12-month warning.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly. The clock is ticking.
Right, before we get on to the cast, Stephen, did you have anything to do with, where the idea came from?
Yeah, so it was suggested in 1993 by David Stainton. As you mentioned, it's based on the book by Victor Hugo. However, Stainton was actually reading a comic book version, not reading the novel. And you mentioned Gary Trousdale. He worked alongside with Kirk Wise, and they were developing a film called Song of the Sea, which was based on basically a whale, and it just wasn't working, wasn't coming together. Then what happened is both of those were summoned by Jeffrey Katzenberg, and they were told they were working on Hunchback, and I believe that is a quote.
Oh.
Summer 1993, the production officially starts. In October 1993, there is a trip to Paris. So Trousdale and Wise go. David Goetz, who would then go on to be the art director of Zootopia.
Oh.
Roy Conley was the co-producer of Big Hero 6, Tangled, Treasure Planet, and the Baymax TV series. We've got Ed Gertner, who was the layout supervisor for Atlantis and The Lion King. Will Finn, who was the story supervisor, and he was also the animator for Laverne, the eldest of the gargoyles, as well as Cogsworth in Beauty and the Beast. Joining them on the trip was Alan Menken and Stephen Schwartz. Alan Menken we know from The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and Pocahontas, whereas Stephen Schwartz we know from Pocahontas, and he would also work on Enchanted for Disney. However, he also worked on a musical, and I'm stealing one of Jamie's facts because I do.
Big time, Stephen. You thief.
Yes. Which I'll let Jamie explain a bit later when she goes through the songs. The trip was 10 days, and that was 3 days in Notre Dame, and they were allowed to go behind the scenes of Paris. So Victor Hugo was able to go like all into these random catacombs and things like that, and so were this Disney team. So they spent 10 days in Paris. I'm not sure whether they went to the Disney park or not. And if they didn't, I want to know why.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because it was a year after opening.
Mm-hmm.
A year and a bit after opening. Like, they should have been there.
I know, they need a rest day.
The Court of Miracles is a real place. It exists. And it's basically the term for the slums of Paris. Within that area, there is a graveyard which is depicted in the film. And within that graveyard, there is a gravestone for a Jean Valjean?
Jean Valjean
Yes.
from Les Mis. A musical I don't like, but yeah, I know so much about.
Basically, that was kind of the production bit. Original stories included a relationship between Quasimodo and Esmeralda, which does make it into the final film because there is a section where Quasimodo makes up loads of excuses why he can't leave the bell tower, and Esmeralda thinks that he is knocking her back, and that's part of one of the original plot points in the original book, so it's like an homage to that.
Okay.
Phoebus and Esmeralda were to be closer, but when we get into the cast and a little bit more, I've got some about the differences between the film and the book. Go into a bit more detail about those other bits, but basically at this point, we are hiring cast members.
Quasimodo is played by Tom Hulsey or Hoochie. Hoochie. I don't know how to pronounce the surname, and I apologize if he's listening. But he was in Amadeus.
Amadeus.
I think it's a film about Mozart. Yes, Sophie's nodding. So yes. He's also in Parenthood. He was also in Animal House. Yes, and so he does both the speaking and singing voice. Facts about that casting. I'll do the least dramatic one first.
Yeah.
So Meatloaf.
Wow.
Was nearly cast.
That's wild.
Yeah. The directors loved the quality and range of his voice, but went with Tom because his speaking voice matched how they envisioned the character to speak. And apparently in Tom's, one of his auditions, he said that the directors were constantly like their heads were down when he was auditioning, and he found it really strange, and he thought, oh my God, are they bored? Am I not doing it right? And it was because their eyes were closed because they were trying to envision the voice as Quasimodo, and they had storyboards on the floor that they were looking at while he was doing lines.
That makes sense.
So it was based off of those auditions that they ended up going with him over Meatloaf, simply because when he did all the speaking parts, it sounded to them, oh yeah, that's Quasimodo.
Yeah, it makes sense as well because Quasimodo's supposed to be like 20, I think.
Yeah.
He needs kind of a young voice.
Yeah, exactly. But I could see where they were going with Meatloaf because, amazing. But yeah, his voice isn't like, I can't imagine that being a young person's voice.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you say, singing would have been perfect.
Yeah.
You'd be like,
And luckily, Tom has got an amazing voice.
Yes.
So yeah. So the drama story that happened, which I'm really disappointed in because I really like this actor. Now I'm like, oh, talk about diva. Sophie, have you heard the name Mandy Patinkin?
Yes, I love Mandy Patinkin.
So do I.
Yes.
And for those of you who don't know who he is, he was in Princess Bride, and Criminal Minds.
Yes.
Those are probably the two.
Was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loved him in Criminal Minds.
Yes.
So I didn't realize he was a Broadway actor as well. So based on this fact, I've learned something new. So yeah, he auditioned for the role and he went extreme to the point where after his audition, they named the day as the Patinkin incident.
Oh my God.
And I'm sorry if you've had a day or a story named after you. It's not good.
It's not good.
Yeah. So according to Kirk, what was his director? Oh God, the name's gone up. Kirk and Gary. Patinkin brought along his own arranger, so music person, and had a new arrangement made of the song of Out There.
Oh my God.
I know.
That's wild.
And obviously Menken and Schwartz were like, excuse me? And they left the audition.
Oh my God.
And yeah. And so, I mean, it doesn't say if he got to actually sing, because it then goes on to say that Patinkin stated, I was just there to audition. And then I said, I can't do this. And then he stormed out. So I don't know if when he turned up with his arranger and he'd started singing their version, maybe with Schwartz and Menken leaving, the directors must have tried to sort of explain, no, this is how the song's going to be. And if you're not going to sing it this way, then we're going to have a problem. And yeah, and he left. But he would go on to play Quasimodo in a TV movie that came out the year after.
That's wild. It was just 1 year later. And he was like, I didn't get my chance. I'm going to make this TV movie happen.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, in the TV, like, I looked at pictures and, like, they don't really put makeup on him. They don't try and... He's just got, like, a dark wig on, and I think they've put a hump on him. I can't remember. I've not seen it.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Even like the barest amount of effort. I kind of need to find out if they put the song in that. Its version.
I want to know what his version was.
No, that is really wild to go, these like really famous people that are really pro at their job. No. I'm going to do my own. That is wild.
Well, they're Oscar winners.
Yes.
Because they've gotten the Oscar for Pocahontas.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Yeah.
Or Alan Menken, because they went through this with Elaine Stritch in The Little Mermaid.
Oh, yeah.
She was going to be Ursula, and she basically was like, I'm doing it this way. And Ashman especially was like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
So it's like 3-4 years apart, and it's like they've had it twice.
I would have loved...
if I was them.
Sorry, Sophie, say that again.
I'd be furious. I'd be like, guys, I know what I'm doing. Can we just trust me?
Yeah. Like, me and Holly have just done the recorded podcast for Menken and Ashman, right? And when I read up about Ashman, see if he had been involved in this. Like, he would have told Patinkin. Definitely. He would have stood up and said, and wouldn't have... I don't think he would have even allowed him to audition. I think as soon as he brought in his own arranger, he'd have went, no, get out. So, next character, Clopan. He is played by Paul Candle. I think I've said that right. Candle. He this is his only film role. He is a Broadway theatre star. Yeah, I don't have anything other than Eric Idle nearly got the role for this. And I'm so glad he didn't, because I think Paul did a really good job.
Yes.
Esmeralda. The speaking voice is Demi Moore. And I am saying that right because I have seen an interview of her and how she says that her and Demi Lovato pronounce their names differently, even though it's spelled the same.
Hey, I'm just going from Friends. I meant Demi Moore.
Yeah. That's Dudley Moore. Now, by the time this podcast is out, I hope she's won the Oscar, but she has already won the Golden Globe for her performance in Substance. And I'm really hoping she gets the Oscar. I feel like it's well deserved. She's in Ghost, Striptease, G.I. Jane, Charlie's Angels 2, St. Elmo's Fire. That's one of my mum's favourites.
The Hunchback of Notre Dame is the only Demi Moore film that I've seen.
Oh, Stephen.
That's wild.
Oh.
I have had Ghost on in the background, but oh my God, film drag.
Oh, G.I. Jane's my favourite. I love that one. Yeah, so her singing voice. So she did, well, I'll get to that fact at the music, but yeah, she did try and sing, bless her. But yeah, she has so the Esmeralda singing voice is by Heidi Mollenheuer. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing it right. It was her first and only experience with film, and she is a cabaret singer. Right, yeah, so Phoebus. So Kevin Kline. Now, Kevin Kline is in A Fish Called Wanda. He's also in Inside Out, which I love that film. Stephen, have you seen that film?
No, yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, it's not the first time I've mentioned an LGBTQ film and you've went, oh, I've not seen that.
What since? No. Are we on about the Pixar film?
No.
Oh, then no.
In and Out. Sorry, Inside Out.
I was very confused. I was like, is he in Inside
Out? Sorry, In and Out. So, have you seen In and Out?
No.
Oh, another film, and people might know him from, is French Kiss with, oh God, her name's went right on my head. Meg Ryan. Yes, he got the role because the filmmakers modeled the character after Errol Flynn and John Wayne, and Kevin Kline constantly came up as the top on the list, like the top name, and he has actually played Errol Flynn in
what else?
I think it was Chaplin.
Oh, okay, I have seen that film.
Oh!
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah, I think he plays Errol Flynn in that. So that's Phoebus. Frollo. Oh.
Not a good guy.
No. Not good. Not even a likable villain.
No, that's the thing. There's nothing about him that you can get on board with.
Well,
no.
Disney actually set out to make him evil. So they didn't want a cool villain or a bad guys are cool kind of thing. Wanted someone who you would hate. And basically everything that they did in this film is like they toned nothing of his character down.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Well, he's voiced by Tony Jay, who was the Monsieur Dark from Beauty and the Beast. So he's the one that, puts Maurice, is going to put Maurice in the asylum. But obviously it doesn't happen. And yeah, Kirk and Gary always liked his voice and brought him in and was like, you could be the villain. People that might have gotten the role was Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, I told you he was in this one.
But obviously, as we know, that Star Trek Jack's generation was not letting him go. Ian McKellen.
Okay. Yeah.
And Derek Jacobi. And they're best friends. Well, works. I think Derek Jacobi's dead now, but yeah, they were best friends.
Both alive.
Oh, they are alive. He is alive.
Can we not kill off,
Sorry. I thought he had passed. Yeah, because hasn't Derek and Ian
They did
done
a
a comedy. Yeah.
called Vicious. Oh my God, me and Luke love that program.
Oh, so you've seen that?
Yeah, I've seen that one. Um, I'm surprised you didn't pick up on an actor who turned the role down for Frollo.
Oh, no, I missed that one. Do you know why, Stephen? Because I knew you would have it.
Yeah. Mr. Anthony Hopkins.
Really?
Thing.
Oh, no. I don't know. He's got such a nice.
He was offered the part and he was turned
Okay.
down. He turned it down.
Yeah. No, his speaking voice is too soft. Like, I think that's why he plays Hannibal so well, because he has such a soft voice.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Now you hear Frollo, I can't imagine anyone else doing that.
But yeah, I feel bad that Tony Jay's doing it because this is not a likable villain. But yeah, and he declared that his role as Frollo as his bid for immortality. But yeah, we'll get back to Frollo later, because I'm sure we all have things to say about him. Right, the gargoyles. So we've got Victor, Hugo, and Laverne. Victor is voiced by Charles Kimbrough, and he has been a cast member in, I've not watched it, but it's called Murphy Brown, and it's Candice Bergen is the lead. I think she's a news anchor or something, and it's based around the process of the news and putting it out there. And like, yeah. So he played that role for a long time. I think that's one of the roles he's most famous for. And he's also in The Wedding Planner with J-Lo. Hugo is voiced by Jason Alexander, who is fab. Love him. He's Pretty Woman. He's the horrible lawyer friend. Seinfeld. And he's in the Brandy Cinderella. And Laverne is voiced by Mary Wicks, who people will know from Sister Act. And she's also in A White Christmas. She helps run the inn in that. Sadly, she died before she finished recording her lines. So her lines had to be not redone, but finished by someone else. And they got a woman called Jane Withers, and she also voiced Laverne after that. So in House of Mouse and the sequel.
It was 6 lines that she recorded.
6.
I think it is very much small words, and I think there's a sentence right at the end.
Before we get on to the music, is there anything else you need to share, Stephen?
I've got a few character things. So I'll kind of work backwards of what you've been going on. So with the gargoyles, they're named after Victor Hugo, the writer. Laverne is named after Laverne Andrews, who's one of the Andrews sisters. But I don't know why.
It's so random. So random.
Guess who originally was going to play the character of Laverne before they changed the character into an older?
I know this. I looked this up, and it's so random. And it is Cyndi Lauper.
Yes.
So random. It's amazing.
Yeah.
What, they want somebody from Brooklyn to play a Parisian gargoyle?
Because they changed the character to an older person. If they'd not done that, Cyndi Lauper would have been in that film. She was contracted. She was ready to go.
What?
Yeah.
I'm saying she's from Brooklyn. Is it Brooklyn or New Jersey?
I'm not sure.
New York, anyway. So
there is a thing in the film where a lot of people were questioning, and a lot of the writers and artists and things, are the gargoyles actually alive, or are they just in Quasimodo's mind? Anyone who worked on the film would say they're in Quasimodo's mind. But then that doesn't explain why Darlie falls in love with Hugo.
Exactly.
So
The whole
there's,
thing falls apart.
yeah. Um, Phoebus, in an earlier draft, was going to marry Esmeralda in the Court of Miracles, only for the wedding to be broken up by Frollo.
Dun,
And
dun,
if
dun.
that is an EastEnders moment right there. His original concept was to be Gaston-like. He's the only character in the film that can talk that doesn't sing.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But he had a song written for him,
Oh.
which was cut. And there's a thing about ages in this film. So originally, Esmeralda was going to be a teenager, but this felt that it was a bit weird because it is established that Quasimodo is around 20 years old, and they didn't like the idea of a 20-year-old marrying a 16-year-old or younger. So they brought her age up to 20. Frollo clearly states that Phoebus has been away from Paris for 2 decades.
Oh no.
If Phoebus joined the army at the age of 15, that still makes him 35. Any 15, and we are pushing a decade, few decades between the age range. Frollo, I've kind of gone through my little facts about that one. Esmeralda, she was considered one of the official Disney princesses up until 2005, when her and Tinkerbell suddenly weren't included.
Was it because they were too sexual?
No idea, but included. So now we're going to get some deep meaning that Disney artists thought about. Esmeralda is the Spanish word for emerald.
Mm-hmm.
The reason, because in the book she has black eyes, but one of the reasons she has green eyes in the film is because traditionally, around the time the film set, green eyes signified magic, evil, or witchcraft.
Okay.
Which, look back at older Disney characters, Maleficent,
Mm-hmm.
Evil Queen,
Yeah.
Maine, we have that. So looking back at Hunchback of Notre Dame, Frollo, who is clearly quite religious, in this time would have believed that her green eyes signified she was a witch.
Yeah.
She also help herself because she, when she's dancing and she's dressed in red, um, red is basically a color of bad luck to Romany people.
Uh-huh.
But she's also seen with a purple sash. And basically, the purple sash signifies the story of the whore of Babylon, who tempted the what would have been the archdeacon, but
Mm-hmm.
priest, with, and I'm going to put it in simpler terms, with a slutty dance,
Right.
whilst dressed in purple.
Okay.
So they really got some of those deep meanings with the colours with Esmeralda, which I find one quite fascinating because the people involved did the exact same thing with um, Belle and Beast and Beauty and the Beast because they both wear blue,
Yeah.
and also with the color palette of Pocahontas as well. So they were really looking at the colors
Mm-hmm.
of films and what they signify. Quasimodo was originally going to be in the book, sorry, was originally blind or partially blind because the growth over his eye basically caused him blindness. He was partially deaf and couldn't speak properly. So, with this, um, an early concept for the character was that he was going to have a speech impediment. That is kind of it for characters. I have a few differences between the books and the film, which I'll go into a bit later.
I've got a little character fact that might not be of interest to anyone else apart from me because it relates to one of my favourite actors. But I did read one of the producers that said that Frollo was based somewhat on Ralph Fiennes' Amon Gert in Schindler's List, which makes sense because he was an awful character. And of course, Schindler's List was out in '93. Ralph Fiennes was up for the Oscar for that character then, which would tie into kind of when this was going into production. But I just thought that was an interesting fact because he was a terrible man as well.
Did try and make Frollo horrible.
Yes.
It
Because
was,
like you say, normally like villains do have, like you say, they're like, oh, they're like a bad guy, but you kind of like something about them. Whereas with this, there's nothing I can like.
yeah. Like when he falls into hellfire, good.
Yes, yes.
I'm not a religious person, but it's like, yes, he shall smite the wicked.
Yes.
Get down.
So, music?
I have nothing for music, so this is going to be a school day for me.
Well, you've already pinched like 2 of my facts, Stephen, so.
I was good at school.
Right, okay, music. So, the songs. So, we've got The Bells of Notre Dame. Out there, strolling by the sand. I don't know if it is strolling by the sand, but.
2 lines and we have to pay copyright.
Okay, Stephen. So we've got Out There, Topsy-Turvy, God Help the Outcasts, Heaven's Light / Hellfire, A Guy Like You, The Court of Miracles, The Bells of Notre Dame, reprise, and then end credit song, Someday. All written by Alan Menken and Stephen Schwartz. So music is Alan Menken, and he also composed the score as well for the whole film. Stephen Schwartz was the lyricist. So you mentioned Stephen Schwartz earlier, Stephen, and yes, they both worked on Pocahontas. They'll work together on Enchanted. Stephen Schwartz also did Prince of Egypt.
Say it.
I was going to burst into song again. Okay, so I'll go with this one, right? This musical is popular. Yes, Wicked. I can't believe that he is the guy that wrote Wicked. So, Wicked fans, if you've not already, you need to watch The Hunchback of Notre Dame. And he also worked on the musical version as well. And hopefully he'll come back and work on the live action remake.
That's if it goes ahead.
I know.
So Alan Menken had said that it's in limbo.
Yeah, I know.
2020.
I know, but Josh Gad is a producer. So, Josh, what the hell?
Do I need to have a word with Bob? I'll have a little word. I'll have a natter.
Yeah, come on, Josh. You've had enough time playing Olaf. We need to see you as Quasimodo.
Exactly.
We know who wrote the music. Amazing. Guys, it's not a bad song.
Yes, yeah, I agree.
I couldn't believe that. I sang all the words, and there's not a boring song or a song that's like they're all good.
This isn't my favorite soundtrack from the 90s, though.
Okay.
I don't think that's because of anything wrong with these songs. I think it's because reflection from Mulan, Hercules, Beauty and the Beast, even Pocahontas, The Lion King, they're all of those songs. They're the big hits from those songs. Whereas for this one, I wouldn't even know what the main song is from this. I'm assuming it's Out There, but
yeah, I would say it's Out There.
Out There's one of my favourite Disney songs. I think it's so good.
It just gives goosebumps.
Yes.
Okay, music facts. Back to Stephen Schwartz, right? So he's been nominated for loads of awards, right? Particularly loads for his work on Broadway, but never won a Tony.
Yes.
That's wild.
No. However, he has won 3 Oscars for the animated films that he's worked on. The opening musical number, The Bells of Notre Dame, is, according to Alan Menken, the best opening number he has ever written.
Yes. It's got the grandeur.
Yeah.
It's not a musical kind of opening either. Whereas like
Bells of Notre Dame.
yeah, whereas Belle has a big ensemble on the stage.
Yeah.
I think you make a good point, Stephen, that this era of Disney films had such incredible soundtracks that, like, I agree that I think this is one of the best ones, but because there's so many incredible ones, it kind of gets lost. Whereas controversially, I was talking about this the other day, I think some of the recent Disney films have had big success, and I won't necessarily name them, but maybe you all know. I think if they had been released in a different era where Disney had loads of big films coming out, there's no way they would have been as successful as they have been. And it's only because there hasn't been a lot of good Disney films that some recent films that people have really taken it to their hearts. But I'm like, I don't think if it had been in this era, they would have done that well.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not okay. Maybe a guy like you could be joyful, but the rest of the songs are not. They're all quite sad. I mean, even Topsy Turvy, if you listen to the lyrics, it's some of the things that he says, and like how all the descriptions he uses in describing ugly people, and it's not a joyful song.
No.
Although it has a joyful and upbeat tempo, the lyrics are quite, oh,
It's a good point, actually. Until you said that, I was like, I hadn't really thought about it, but all of the songs are quite sad.
yeah.
It's an interesting thing, but it's so impactful.
It is. That's the difference.
Storytelling.
Yeah, they're very powerful. And yeah, I think like, like a Broadway or West End musical, this would be one that if you went to see it, it would be powerful and impactful, and you'd walk out and you'd think, oh yeah, that has really had an effect on me. I'm not going to turn around to Ben and say, oh God, go and put Hellfire on. I'm in the mood. No.
I wouldn't admit that you're in the mood for that song. If I'm honest, any other song on the soundtrack.
Put a bit of God Help the Outcasts on. Whereas I will say, I'm whispering it. Put the Hercules soundtrack on.
Yeah.
Don't, because she might play. Anyway, right, we're getting away. Okay, so speaking of Hellfire, it's considered one of the darkest songs written for a Disney film and was nearly cut. And weirdly, not by Katzenberg, because he ain't here no more. So yeah, during the part where the hooded priests sing mea culpa, mea maxima culpa, meaning my fault, my most grievous fault, to answer Frollo's that's not my fault. Sorry, I meant to explain. I just read my fact out that during the song, if nobody knows, that's what they're saying. That's what I meant to say. Sorry. But yes, it was nearly cut from the film. But yeah, I'm glad it didn't get cut, but because that's definitely like, whoa.
Oh, it's an adult song, and I remember as a child kind of watching this. I can't remember if this came out first or Toy Story, but they were the first. Well, they were the first two films that I saw at the cinema,
Oh,
and I was about 5 years old. So,
yeah.
and I remember watching Hunchback of Notre Dame and this part of the film. And the weird thing is I can still see it, but in a way where I can see the seats and like the wall because we're quite close to the edge, because I didn't want to watch that bit. That
Okay.
that was too much. And I think that kind of soured my opinion of this film a little bit.
Okay.
And growing up, when you learn what that song is about,
Mhm.
it's a bit like, do you know what? Yeah, I'm I'm never gonna say I want to put that song on, listen to that song or anything like that. I just don't like it. But I think I don't like it for the right reasons,
Yeah.
rather than, oh, it's a crap song.
Yeah.
It just doesn't sit right with me. And I want to like it, but I just
Yeah.
Hercules.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not like it's different because like when like with Be Prepared, you will sing along to that.
Oh, yeah,
And you'll sing
because
along to For Unfortunate Souls.
oh,
You're not gonna sing along to Hellfire.
let's address the elephant in the room, right? We know what this song is about. It is about his lustful intentions for what is basically a very, very young girl.
Yeah.
And it's her fault. I mean, here we are in 2025, and it's her fault because she's hot that I want to bed her. I'm being so polite. I
I know.
wouldn't normally be this polite, but I'm
Yeah.
trying my hardest to. And this whole song, and the thing is with Frollo, is he almost gives the seven deadly sins.
Yeah.
You and he is basically like, no, do you know what? I'm pure. I'm fine. It's
Mm-hmm.
his fault that she's running around Paris. Like she's asking for it.
Yeah.
And as I say, here we are in 2025, and that is some people's defense still. And for this song to be in a film is like, oh, okay, that is a moment.
Mm-hmm.
For it to be in a film 30 years ago, again, that's a significant moment. To be in a children's film, then
Yeah.
to a Disney film,
Mm-hmm.
this film does the song doesn't belong in that audience.
It is interesting that Disney kind of did make this a film because when you look at, like you say, like the story material, it is so dark, and it is
Oh,
interesting. They went, "We'll make a kids film out of this."
well, it's because he was reading the comic book.
That's the thing. It was the
I,
comic book version. If you're just looking at the pictures, it's charming.
it's when you read the words. Like you've got to read the words.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, I remember when I first seen this, and I mean, I did get the sense, also I would have been 10 at the time, and I knew the song was something to do with him wanting Esmeralda, and that he wanted her for himself. Like I got that message, but did I pay attention to the words in the song? No. Was it probably the least interesting bit to me at that time? Yes. But yeah, now watching it, like when I watched it earlier today, I was like, oh God, I can't believe I watched this when I was 10.
Yes, same. I felt the same because it's one like you say, I kind of like, oh, he was a bad guy, but you didn't really pay much attention. I always just like loved Quasimodo. I was like, he's such a happy, friendly guy, and I feel so bad for him. And
Yeah,
like, you really connected with him.
yeah.
And when you watch it again as an adult, you're like, oh my God, this is so much darker than I remember it being as a child. You're just like, this is mad.
If more children now watch this film, it's a great way to show them and explain about being kind and how you shouldn't treat people just because they're different.
Yes, I think that's something that I really resonated with the film as a child, is
Yeah.
kind of that empathy towards Quasimodo. And what's interesting is in the book and other adaptations, Quasimodo is not like a friendly character, and Disney intentionally went out because obviously it is a kids' film. But I think that was actually a really good choice because you're so in his corner, and then, like you say, kind of seeing how everyone treats him, you feel such empathy for him, and
Mhm.
then the ending, it's just like joyous because you're like, he's triumphant and like the people accept him now.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Okay. So we've got to get back to the music. Right. So I said earlier about Demi Moore and the singing voice. Okay. So they wanted that husky sound, which obviously she has. And yeah, apparently she tried really hard with the singing. And she just told them, look, this isn't working. You're going to need to get somebody else. I can't do it the way it's got to be done. So she was obviously, thrown in the towel. Look, I'm an actress. I'm not a singer. I've tried, but no. And it's such a shame because, like, I watching it again today, the singing part isn't massive. And there is only one song, and it's not a lot of lines that she sings on her own. So it is a shame that she wasn't able to do it herself. But that other girl, she's got that on her resume. I was in a Disney film. Weird, because when I was a kid, I was convinced that that was Demi Moore, and I always thought, "Oh my god, she can sing as well!" Like I was already a fan, and it was like, "Oh, I'm an even bigger fan." Like speaking of Esmeralda's song, so Bette Midler sings the version on the soundtrack, the other version. And the people's part that obviously you hear when they're doing their praying and whatnot, that's not in it. Some words are changed as well. But basically they make it a bit more of a pop version. But yeah, I have heard her version of it. It's not bad. So the end credit song, Someday. So it's not in the film, it was written as the end credit song. And for American audiences, the boy band All for One sings it. And I actually had their album at the time. For the British audience, we got Eternal. And again, I was a massive fan at the time. And then for the Latin American Spanish version, so for the Latinas, they had Luis Miguel. And apparently it was a huge hit, his version. Yeah, you mentioned that Menken and Schwartz were part of the group that went to Paris. Schwartz, like Ashman, although not as heavily, he worked with the writing team, suggesting that the audience should be left wondering what the outcome of Phoebus would do before he extinguishes the torch in water in retaliation against Frollo. I mean, I didn't really think he was going to do anything else but put it in the water, to be honest.
No, I did. I thought that he was going to torch the house.
Did you?
Yeah, but you gotta remember, I was 5 years old.
I mean, part of me wants him to roll that fire at Frollo. But yeah, no, I knew, like, of course he was going to put it in the water. Like,
Well, when I watched it again when I was older, because I knew that it burnt,
yeah.
I had that feeling where it was like, well, I
Oh,
know it burns.
is he gonna?
Is he gonna do it? So yeah, I get that. I got that.
Oh, yeah. And my last musical fact. Right, okay, yeah. Having both worked together on Pocahontas, Menken and Schwartz were on multiple film projects when they chose to work on the Hunchback. And according to Schwartz, they had both been attracted to the underlying themes of social outcast and Quasimodo's struggle to break free of the psychological abuse of Frollo. I'd love to know what other projects they were offered, but for them to turn them down for a Hunchback.
So I've got a few differences between the film and the book.
Yeah.
Frollo is not
Judge.
like the judge, sorry. He was the archdeacon. Frollo actually never confined Quasimodo to the bell tower. In the book, Quasimodo chose to hide there due to his deformities. Oh,
Okay.
but they shouldn't be crying for Quasimodo. Because he was so, as I said, as I mentioned earlier, partially blind, partially deaf, speech impediment, couldn't really speak.
Hmm.
So he basically just hid and became the monster hidden in the tower. In the film, just in the book, sorry, just to fit with that monster in the bell tower, Quasimodo is happy to kill people to protect Esmeralda. In the film, original draft, Esmeralda was going to kill Frollo. In the book, Quasimodo kills Frollo because he believes that Esmeralda has been killed by Frollo via hanging. So, few spoilers.
Hmm.
Esmeralda is hung. Quasimodo throws Frollo off the bell tower.
Yeah.
He then takes Esmeralda's body to the crypts, holds her body tight, and starves to death. 3 years later, the bodies are recovered, and Quasimodo's body turns to dust when the guards try to remove his body from the skeleton.
Oh.
That's a good idea for a Disney film.
It's so funny, isn't it? You just do think. Look, as much as I love it, I'm like, it is very bizarre that they went with this.
Just to put a little bit more in there, um, Phoebus was never in love with Esmeralda and actually pretends. He also flirts with her throughout, but ditches her to marry a wealthy noblewoman called Fleur de Lis. Esmeralda within the thing actually saves a playwright, Pierre Gringoire. Not gonna be able to pronounce that, sorry. She saves him from hanging. They eventually marry, but obviously she is killed.
Uh-huh.
Out of this book, the only person that survived is probably him. Um, he was meant to be in the film, but
Oh,
they merged that character and Phoebus together to be a
okay.
hero like. And one of the original points, although it's never clarified, but it's strongly hinted at, is that as Esmeralda and Quasimodo were swapped at birth. So this brings on to more colours within the film.
Okay.
We're talking about skin tone more than anything else. Quasimodo's mother, who is what perceived to be his mother, has a darker skin tone and looks more like Esmeralda. So an original draft was that it was the baby swap.
Okay.
It was going to be a wealthy family would have this, I'm going to use the term white baby, but was
Uh,
deformed and would much rather have a child with darker skin, but wasn't deformed. So they were swapped, and that is why his parents are killed and things like that.
mm.
So this is a happy story about the people in Paris. I'm sure French people are a lot nicer than what is depicted in this book. So they were the differences. You mentioned the musical earlier on.
Yes.
Musical is a lot closer to the original book.
Okay.
So it is a lot darker.
Right.
I'll go into it because I've only got one or two facts for it. So first done in 1999. It ran for 3 years, which makes it, even to today, one of Germany's longest running musicals. All 3 years of it. And then it was kind of revived 2013 to 2014. It proved really popular. and it moved on to another playhouse in 2015. This is in Florida. And then it went back to Berlin in 2017, and that's the last it's kind of been.
And is
Uh,
that with the music from this, or is it like,
yeah, it's Disney.
oh,
Yeah, it's done in collaboration with Disney, but the the three gargoyles, because they're not in the original book, they appear in this
okay,
version. And the style, so Phoebus's personality is the Disney
right,
personality. They've taken like the storyline of the Disney film, but it is what we were talking about earlier about doing this film properly, but for adults.
yeah.
Is what the musical seems like it would be.
I mean, I've heard snippets of the soundtrack. I think I heard it when during COVID, and I was so shocked that this even existed. And oh my God, like
So
amazing the singing
I
that.
I didn't know that there was a musical until earlier on today. Oh. Yeah. So VHS release as always.
Mhm.
First VHS was in 1997. The DVD was released in 2002. The sequel was meant to be released in 2001, but was delayed by a year, so it could come out with the DVD re-release. Weirdly, at the end of the sequel, if you've got that far, you know where it has the Roman numerals at the end, the year it was released, the copyright year? That's actually for the year 2000.
Okay.
The film was made 2 years before it was released, and they should have done it better. And the Blu-ray came out in 2013. Hidden Mickeys. Obviously, Quasimodo is at the end of Wish, for those of us who have watched it.
Yes.
Belle, Humber, and the Magic Carpet appear as cameos. Belle must be rocking on for about 200 years old, though, because there's 200 years between this and the Beauty and the Beast. Humber, I've got no idea. But even the people who made it said it's a little Easter egg for the fans. It's not canon. Belle did not go to Paris. However, Quasimodo makes little models of people,
Uh-huh.
including the baker, who is the same baker as the one in Beauty and the Beast. And this one is especially for Sophie because we're welcoming you back to the podcast.
Yes.
We talked about the Rescuers Down Under.
Yes.
You were here. And in the Rescuers Down Under, as part of the Rescue Aid Society, there is a Romany mouse dressed similar to Esmeralda, and her name is Esmeralda.
Oh, that's amazing.
We're not
Oh,
linked,
That's so
but
nice.
between here, I was like, do you know what? That fact is going in.
Yes. I do love how Disney do have these little Easter eggs and tie-ins to their other films. Like,
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
not always accurate, like timeline-wise, but for the fans, it's fun.
yeah.
Oh, before
So,
we go, I have some little park facts. Some little bits. They haven't got lots in the parks, but they have, over the years, done a few bits and bobs. And what I actually think was interesting is when the film came out, they were really, really going for it. So Disney World, Disneyland, Disneyland Paris all had Hunchback of Notre Dame in the parks. So Disneyland Paris had a little cavalcade, and it was based on the Festival of Falls. And they had like the Topsy Turvy song, see the characters, which was amazing. Disney World and Disneyland had stage shows. The Disney World one was more like a traditional Broadway show. It was about 30 minutes long. The Disneyland one, it was interesting because it was in the round. So they had stages in the audience. And also, like both of these shows you can watch on YouTube. So I was watching them. The Disneyland one was literally incredible. Like the set was like 180 degrees and it was all different buildings. And like during out there, Quasimodo is literally swinging between the buildings. And then they have this giant bell, and at the end, he's swinging on the bell. And I was like, this is unreal. And I was like, they need to immediately bring this back pronto because it's so good. And I feel sad that we don't have these things because they're literally remarkable. And they also had character cavalcades like in Disneyland Paris. So Disneyland were like, come and see the show. They had a bit of like the Festival of Falls to get people excited about the stage show, to lure them over. But unfortunately, the stage show, like Disneyland, it didn't last very long. It was just a few years. Disney World, it did last much longer. But I'm just like, I feel like we need more, particularly Paris. We have had touches here and there, like as you mentioned earlier, Disney Dreams. They had a whole section of Hunchback of Notre Dame, which was incredible. And last year, when Notre Dame reopened, they had it was like a 5-minute drone and firework show, which again is on YouTube. It's so good, and I'm like, I feel like they should have that as like a pre-show to the fireworks show because it perfectly ties in with France, and it was remarkable. Like the mixture of the songs that they put in this drone and fireworks show was incredible. And they had obviously had projections. They had a well, maybe now we've done a deep dive. They had a giant follow drone glaring down at you. Maybe that is too much. It's so good. And I've always thought it's sad that they've not done more with films set in France in Disneyland Paris. Like until we got Ratatouille, they were like, we're not going to acknowledge it. But they've got so many good films set in France. And I'm like, if they could bring that back and add more into it, I think that would be really good. And obviously, we had a bit of Topsy Turvy and Dream and Shine Brighter, which was, RIP, one of the best parades that's ever happened. But interestingly, Disney World has Frollo. So if you go to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party and Boo to You Parade, he is one of the characters that you can interact with, which is the funny thing of like, I was always like, oh, that's fun. And then now I've rewatched the film, I'm like, it's really not a good guy. Like you said, there's no redeeming qualities about him. So it is strange that he's just like hanging out, dancing in a parade.
I saw him in the parade, and he was on the same. He's in the same area as Bowler Hat Guy from
Yes.
Minions, and I was so like, they don't belong together. Like,
Yes.
no,
It's so interesting.
he should be over there, like in a cage somewhere.
Yeah.
To be a bad guy.
I feel like the other villain should be like, oh no, we don't hang out with him. Like he's not one of us.
Yeah, no, he's one of us. Like, I don't know who let him in. We're just, spells and stuff. Whoa.
Exactly that. And interestingly, they also do have a Hunchback of Notre Dame section in Happily Ever After fireworks at Disney World, which I absolutely love. And if you ever see videos of like when they first the first night they debuted that fireworks show, people were so excited for Hunchback of Notre Dame to be there. So I'm like, please can we have more? Because obviously everyone loves it. Oh, and interestingly, this year, they're opening a brand new villains show in Hollywood Studios called Unfairly Ever After, and Frollo is one of the 60 villains included in that in some way. You're like, no, absolutely not.
I hope the other villains kind of like gang up on him. I hope like Scar's in the background, like, don't worry, guys.
Yeah, it's so true.
Like he's good at falling.
Exactly that.
They also, when was it Disneyland Paris's 5th anniversary? Did they do Hunchback then, or have I just made that up?
They might have, and I don't actually know if that coincided with the cavalcade because of the release of the film, which it could have been. But I'm sure there was something to do with that because again, like it makes perfect sense that you're in France, you're in Paris. Tie it in.
Yeah, definitely.
We had this discussion on Beauty and the Beast.
Yes.
Because, like you said earlier, they've got some films set in Paris. So you've got Beauty and the Beast, Hunchback of Notre Dame, The Aristocats.
Yes.
It's like, what's the main theme? Sleeping Beauty. It's like...
Yeah, it's unusual, isn't it?
But 30 years this year.
Yeah.
Next year.
1995. Have I got the year wrong again?
Yes, because it's my birthday. 19th of June, 1996. It came out.
That's amazing.
Yes. So yeah, 30 years next year.
We're approaching that 30 years. So they should do something, but
yes,
I mean, in Paris, they should just have anything that's Disney related set in Paris or Europe, just there at some point.
It's Studios Park expansion. They're like, right, like you say, we could do Beauty and the Beast, we could do Hunchback, we could do Aristocats. Let's do Lion King. When it's -5 and snowing, it's going to feel very much like we're in Africa. It's very weird.
I'm glad that they're doing something with The Lion King, and I'm
Yes.
getting a Splash Mountain. But at the same time, where's my Be Our Guest restaurant?
I know. I literally cried when I walked into that restaurant.
Oh,
It was emotional. It's all right. I'm trying not to say too much because I know Jamie's going this year. But do you know what? That restaurant. So last time I went, I was really, really ill, and it was the main day of me being ill. Absolute lovely photo of me looking like I'm knocking on death's door.
Oh, bless you.
Hang on, I'll just finish me grey stuff and then I'm coming with you.
I love that. It's
But
wild, isn't it? 'Cause like you say, it's set there, and like people would want it as well. And then
Yeah.
don't give the people what they want.
I think as well they would have more Parisians and French, you know, sort of proud that they have a Disney park because
Yes.
they have so many stories that Disney have done films on. I know that obviously there was more to it when the park was built, and I get that. But it's like they really didn't help themselves by not having anything to do with any of the films set in France when they opened that park, especially, you know, the fact that Beauty and the Beast came out the year before.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that park should have opened with loads of Beauty and the Beast stuff.
Yeah. And the fact that there's really nothing is wild. Like to this day, they're like just nothing.
Not even like a proper meet and greet bit. You
Yeah.
only see her if you go in the Princess Pavilion if you're waiting to queue 5 hours.
Exactly. It's so true. It's wild. The one thing I did see last time, that they've got very nice Aristocats Disneyland Paris Spirit jersey now, and I'm like, oh, there's
Yes.
this acknowledgement that this is set in France. But like you said, there's so many things they could do, and it's crazy they have it. And like, obviously, Beauty and the Beast is still one of the most popular films they've ever made, and you've got that in Tokyo. You've got like the ride, the land, and I'm like, could we not just do that? Although I am excited, like you say, the fact we're going to have a Lion King land and no one else has it is amazing.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know how the cold's going to work.
No, I know. Right. Well, let's share our thoughts on the film. Though I kind of already have an idea of what Stephen's going to be.
Yeah. I mean, I'll go first. We'll end on a high note. So
Okay.
it's not my favorite.
Okay.
I don't connect with it. I do not connect with that film. It's the same as Fox and the Hound. If it was done by anyone else, if it was a Don Bluth film, might love it a lot more. But it's not. And it doesn't feel quite like a Disney film to me. It's got a 2 from me.
Stephen!
I'm sorry. Do you know what? I'm a purist, all right? I don't like my Disney films to be about old men raping young women. Oh, I don't want that. I don't want that kind of thing. It's not enough to grip me. And yeah, okay, the songs are fine. They're not amazing songs. I would happily pick other songs over any of the ones from this. And I'm not even talking about Renaissance, I'm talking about other films. I will say that the artwork, and especially that opening scene of Notre Dame through the clouds and everything, absolutely stunning. On its own, 5 out of 5. But everything that followed down a little bit. So
Right. Well, Sophie, we'll let you go last.
Okay.
Can
I just, is this scale out of 10 or 5? Because
5.
Okay. I was thinking 10 and I was thinking, wow.
Okay.
Stephen.
No, 5. 5. I gave it a 4. I love it in the sense of when I watched it for the first time, I remember loving this film and loving Quasimodo and Esmeralda, and I had everything that you could get merch-wise. Pajamas, we had the Esmeralda dolls, I had a Quasimodo doll, and he came with his table and all the, you know, the Burger King cup, but like the everything that came out at that time, you know, me and my sister had. I remember going to the cinema to see it, and I remember it having an effect on me. I knew what the message was. It always, you know, pulled at my heartstrings. And the music I remembered being so good. But when it, like Stephen's saying, it's in the middle of such strong films and it's so different and it does stand out because of the messages within the story compared to, you know, like what we've seen before and what we're going to get. It's hard to give it a solid 5 because, like, yeah, the Frollo bit in particular is like, oh, risky. Don't get me wrong, when I watched it earlier today, I wasn't on my phone. You know, I was watching it from start to finish. I got the goosebumps wherever, you know, the same places that I remembered getting the goosebumps. But yeah, really paying attention to the lyrics and yeah, that whole hellfire scene. It was like, oh, so yeah, I'm gonna stick with a 4. And like, see, when I went to put it on, Finlay said, "Oh, mummy, why are you putting this on?" And I says, "Well, I'm putting it on for the podcast." And I says, "You're gonna watch it with me?" "No." And I says, "Why?" He says, "Oh, because I don't like that bit." And I was like, "What bit?" And he hates the bit when they're throwing the food at Quasimodo. That makes him upset. And when I watched that bit, like when he ran upstairs, and I watched it on my own, like it did get me upset. Yeah. Like I was like, oh my God, it was just awful. And I've never really seen anything like that. Now we've watched them all from the beginning. I don't think there's been anything like that where you've seen the main character being verbally and physically assaulted before like that.
Maybe the early ones, so like Pinocchio and Dumbo, but not to the same extent.
No, not to that, where, you know, with Dumbo, the big ears, yes, we've heard like the name calling, but the throwing of the food and the tying them down, and yeah, almost like they're getting ready to do worse if Esmeralda hadn't stepped in. And then it was like, I think when he's with Esmeralda in Notre Dame, Finlay came back down and was like, "Is that bit over?" And I said yes. He still only lasted 5 more minutes and then he buggered off again, but still. So yeah, he didn't even get to the hellfire scene. So no, a 4 out of 5 for me.
Yes, I would also say a 4 out of 5.
Okay.
And I think, like you, I also have nostalgia from seeing it as a child. And like I said, it's interesting rewatching it as an adult because as a kid, I just really was like, oh, Quasimodo's so nice. But as an adult, like you say, it's a lot darker. You kind of see it. But I do kind of like that Disney did take on like big, heavy problems.
Yeah.
Which, like, obviously they always do talk about these things, but this one was like really, really heavy. And like you say, when you've also got like the horrible treatment of Quasimodo, and you know, I know Disney did tread carefully, but like discussions around the church and stuff like that, I think it was quite kind of pioneering almost of them to kind of do something this much of an outlier. So I do appreciate it for that. But I love the music. I think it's absolutely incredible. Like, Out There's one of my all-time favorite songs. I will cry every single time I hear it.
Yeah.
I also agree that I think it's one of the best openings. Like, and like you say, it feels very much like a musical. If you saw it on stage, and like when I've watched the YouTube clips of their stage versions in the parks, is such an incredible opening number, really powerful. And again, like you were saying, Stephen, the visuals are stunning. Like, especially like you say, like the kind of like swooping in shots, and also the stuff inside the church where you also have the stained glass.
Yeah.
But I still think Quasimodo is one of those amazing characters, because I think that's something that people probably do really connect to, and why they like Quasimodo is the kind of outcast story. And I think a lot of people relate to that, obviously not to the extent that he was outcast, but feeling a bit different and feeling like people don't accept them. But then Quasimodo always stays so positive. He's so kind. He's so nice.
Yeah.
Regardless. And I think that's such a reason why he's so, so lovable. And I'm just like, this will always have a place in my heart. But I do think it's interesting the difference you feel watching it as an adult. And it is wild. You do think, I don't know how this was a kid's film. But then we all saw it as kids and we were like, okay.
I know. I mean, I can't understand why at the time that it wasn't made into a live action back then. Why they chose to do the story as an animated film when they were doing so well with the live actions at that time. I find that really weird that it didn't get sort of considered for live action, and that they stuck to an animated version.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because like you said, we've had a book version, we've had film versions that have all been much, much darker. And it's interesting, Disney obviously did change it to be a bit lighter as an animated film, which I think worked. But I just think it's such an interesting film in Disney's back catalogue because of how different and dark it is.
I did read that this is Michael Eisner's favourite.
Yes. But
I wonder if it still is. Your dad will have to ask him.
I know, he literally spoke to him on Wednesday.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, I need to know. That's immediately, next time he's in Portsmouth, I'm going to be like, you've got to pass on some questions. Do you still have Hunchback?
Yes.
Yes. It'll be so good.
Thank you so much, Sophie, for coming back on.
It's always such a joy. I love this so much.
I know. Obviously, we're going to have you back again.
It's so fun. And immediately, I'm going to watch Wish.
Yes, watch Wish. That is your homework.
Yes, it's going to be perfect.
Yes.
If no one ever hears of me again, you'll know it's because I did not give a good review to Stephen, and he's been like, "You're cast out. You're shunned."
Well, thank you for listening. No, wait, let me do that again. Sorry. If you've been listening to this week's episode, thank you. You can get in touch with us via Threads, Blue Sky now, Instagram. You can listen on YouTube as well as Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. And we will see you next time for Hercules. Is it Hercules?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Right.
Before we go on, Sophie, plug your podcast.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So I have a little podcast all about how to plan trips to the Disney parks. Then I also have a YouTube channel with planning videos and vlogs of my trips. And then I also have a website, mostmagicalguys.com, and I have planning templates. I do Zoom calls to help you plan your trips. Disney World dining booking service. There's everything. It's all going on. Anything to do with the Disney parks.
Yes.
Right.
And you'll hear from us next time.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.